How do the Oklahoma Sooners beat Alabama in the college football playoff? We've already seen this matchup once. We knew how it ended, and Oklahoma's looking for a similar result. The formula is going to be relatively the same, and there are some things that they'll need to do to make that happen. Now, this is a year where Oklahoma came into the season with big time questions. There were questions about the defense, questions about the offense, and Brent Venables deserves a lot of credit for the changes that he made. He decides to take over the defensive play calling himself, brings in Ben Arbuckle to call the offense, and brings in John Mateer to be the quarterback for this team. Now, while that got most of the attention, it was actually the defensive emergence of certain players that helped this team tremendously. This is one of the better defenses in college football, one of the best defenses, I should say, in college football, and a big reason why they're 10-2. Oklahoma has been on a journey, and I don't think a lot of people expected this team to be in the college football playoff. I know I didn't, but they're here. They are in, and they are looking to make a run. And if they play a specific kind of way, they have the ability to beat anyone. There are some big X factors for this team that need to play a role. And it's going to be fun to see if those X factors can deliver in the moments when they need to. The biggest thing for them is, and we've been talking about this for pretty much the entire year, John Mateer's decision making. That is going to dictate the outcome of this game. Because when you look at his numbers, 2,500 yards passing, 12 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, decision making has not been his strength. How do you get him to take care of the football is going to be a big question. Because when you are seeing him play with confidence, we've seen a guy who can make all these different types of throws. He can make incredible throws that not many quarterbacks can make. He can make athletic plays, acrobatic plays. This is a guy who has that special it factor when he's playing with confidence. The problem that comes with that is that there is this, I don't want to call it arrogance, but this overconfidence that turns him into bad decisions, even if it's not the best look. Sometimes he makes those plays and they work. A lot of times we've seen this year, he makes those plays and it's either nearly a turnover, a bad throw, or it is a turnover. That's going to cost Oklahoma. And a lot of people have said this year. Oklahoma's offense can lose them football games. Oklahoma's defense can win them any football game. If Oklahoma is able to take care of the ball and Ben Arbuckle can kind of reel in John Mateer and some of that loose cannon decision making, it's going to be interesting to see how this team competes. There are still deficiencies on this offense even when they're playing well, but they're a much better team when John Mateer is making the right read. You obviously don't want to take away that special ability, because if you reel him in too much, he's going to be overthinking. He's not going to be himself. That's going to cost them as well. But you have to find that balance between being reckless and making some of those special plays. And it's a fine line to walk. But I think that Arbuckle and Mateer can figure that out. Now, I think that they're going to be an interesting group to watch, because if they're able to make that happen, that's where we get explosive plays. And we've seen that if Oklahoma plays a certain type of way, there's only a couple explosive plays they need to make the difference. We've seen it a number of times, especially recently, when you look at the LSU game, the Missouri game. You've seen even the Alabama game 3 games ago. The Missouri game, you saw one explosive play was the difference. That's what this group needs. They need those explosive plays to kind of take some of the pressure off for teams basically daring them to beat them in man coverage. And Alabama is going to try to get to John Mateer. They're going to try to bait him into those poor decisions. Every team is going to try to do that. And when you look at some of the best defenses they played this year, LSU only scored 17 points, Missouri 17 points, Alabama 23. You've seen a group that is obviously going to struggle against those groups, but a lot of teams do. The difference is how many mistakes do you make that will flip the momentum into the other team's favor. In those games that we just mentioned, they were smart. They took care of the ball. They made sure that things happened, and they won those games. So how do you take care of the ball? How do you get those explosive plays? And how do you find that balance? Because we're seeing a group that has the ability to beat Alabama already, but win games that are in big moments. So it'll be interesting to watch this group. Winning the line of scrimmage obviously is going to be huge. This offensive line for Oklahoma is extremely talented, but Alabama's defensive line is going to give them fits, going to give them problems. And having a mobile quarterback like John Mateer does give them a little bit of a boost, a little bit of an advantage, because even if Alabama gets to Oklahoma, gets in the backfield, John Mateer has shown that he can make plays even with that pressure. So when you're looking at this team, you know the formula. Play really good defense. The offense has to play smart. So if the defense continues doing what it's doing, it's going to be fun to watch this team. Now, a big thing, I don't know what R. Mason Thomas's status is going forward. That would be fun to see him again. He has been tremendous for this team this year. He has been a game changer. He has made this defense into something that we didn't anticipate to this level. Brent Venables is a great play caller. But I think at the same time, there were some questions about maybe the personnel, maybe about who was going to step up. I thought that R. Mason Thomas could be a big factor, and it turns out that was correct. He has been a huge factor. That's going to be a group that has a huge impact on this game, and they've had a big impact on this team this year, and you can make an argument that they've won this team a number of games single-handedly, even though they didn't score points. The reason why they beat LSU, Missouri, Alabama, Auburn, even Michigan at the beginning of the year was because of this defense. If this defense keeps teams in check like they can, they're capable of winning football games by themselves. They're capable of beating anybody, like we said earlier. Now, I think that they have to dare Alabama to run. Everybody knows that Alabama is struggling. And we know that Oklahoma's defense rallies to the football really well. So I'm very curious to see what Brent Venables is going to do. Now, he's not going to sit there and just sit back and drop 8 every single time. He's going to send unique pressures to throw off Ty Simpson, because Ty Simpson has not been playing well as of late. And that's an area that Brent Venables can expose, can exploit. So how do you do that? How do you dare the Tide to run? You're basically going to try to take away what they've done well, which is throwing the ball. And Alabama has struggled. So maybe you just need to give those light looks, and you can still send pressure late. Maybe you give those too high looks where everybody says, oh, too high safeties, run the ball. It's not as simple as that, obviously, but that's kind of what people have been talking about. That's like the new trend this year in college football. Two high safeties, run the ball. Dare Alabama to beat you with the run, because we know that they can move the ball through the air. We know they're a good passing offense, but can they run the ball well enough? And is Jam Miller going to be healthy? And then disruptive plays. Oklahoma is one of the best at disruptive plays, getting in the backfield, wreaking havoc. So again, you don't have to sit back, drop 8, and just pray that Alabama is going to try to run because they see that light box. Brent Venables isn't that type of play caller. He's not going to just sit back and let the offense dictate what to do. He's still going to send pressures. He's going to send unique pressures where he may simulate one thing and send it on the other side. He may give a different look pre-snap to post-snap. He's done that all year, and he has the personnel that can handle that. He also has a defensive line that I think can win up front. Alabama's offensive line has struggled this year. They have not been consistent. So this is an Oklahoma defensive line that has a massive opportunity in front of them. So it'll be really fun to see how they make that happen, because there are ways for them to win, and it's a formula that we've seen already. They beat Alabama 23-21 in that game. So pace is going to be part of this as well. How do you keep this game not slow, but how do you keep this game in check? Because Alabama has explosive players on offense. Keeping them in check, keeping everything in front of you is going to be huge for this defense. If you keep the pace in check, that's where Oklahoma likes to live. They're okay sitting in that, let's keep the pace relatively slower so that we don't have to worry about trying to be in a track meet that we're not capable of winning right now. Because when you look at what they've done this year, they have only had 3 games where they scored over 30 points. They're not a team or 4 games with over 30 points. They're not a team that's capable of putting up 30 plus points consistently. They don't want to win that way. I don't think they have the offense to do that. They want the defense to keep Alabama in check and the offense to just be consistent enough and hit just enough explosive plays to make that happen. Now, that is a very specific formula and very concise way you need to win, but they've done it this year. It's a way that they've just been able to do that, and that's an identity thing. That is their identity. They're going to try to ruin whatever offensive game plan Alabama brings to the table, and they're going to try to replicate the previous result. And it's tough to beat a team twice. It is. Kalen DeBoer is one of the best offensive minds in college football. Going against Brent Venables, it's going to be interesting to see how DeBoer and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb combat some of the things they saw from the previous matchup. That is going to be a very interesting game to watch and one of the better games in the first round. Maybe not the most entertaining, but it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be an intense game and probably another close game, maybe down to the wire again. It'll be fun to see how this game plays out. Oklahoma's in a good position to potentially win this game, and it'll be fun to see how they can make all of these things happen to pull out a win and move on to the next round.